What's going on, everybody? It is Luke, and today we're going to be doing a re-review. Yes, a re-review of BuyBotPro. I have done two before, one when it first came out about 1.5, 2 years ago, and another one about a year ago, just showing the improvements of BuyBotPro as it progresses and evolves. Because like anything, every market is changing. Or definitely on the online marketplaces, it's very fast paced, and you need to be keeping up with extra inputs and data points to help not only analyze tools but so that you can make the best decisions across your Amazon business. And BuyBotPro is one of those tools that I will classify as an essential tool to have a successful Amazon business. If you don't know what it is a Chrome extension that will plug in. It looks very similar to this picture here on the left. Plug into your your web browser, and you can help. It's like a help or an assistant, I like to call them, and it assists you in analyzing the deal to make sure it's not only profitable, but it has, it's selling the right amount of units per month that you want. It's not, that you're allowed to sell it, that there's no problems or issues. Like, it's very easy to sell a product that you shouldn't really be selling because it's like a private label product, and it gives you all this data and all this knowledge right at your fingertips. And for any newer seller that's actually selling on this platform or looking to sell on Amazon, this is essential because it's very much just all in your face, and you really need to have some sort of help to make your decisions the best they can be, because it is very easy to make a bad buy and sort of have many hundreds of pounds tied up in stock that you just can't sell. And when you're a beginner, that is the last thing you want, because you're not going to obviously be starting with a lot of money usually, maybe £1,000-2,000 when you start in this business. So having 10-20% of your stock tied up in bad buys or products that just aren't shifting, or that you maybe even have to take a loss on, is a massive issue. So a software like this really helps you remove a lot of those issues at the beginning. And definitely when I started Amazon, there wasn't a huge amount out there, and this sort of tool would have helped me avoid all the sort of stupid and silly mistakes that I made within the 3 to 6 months of starting on Amazon. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to an example, and we're just going to take it for a spin so that you get to see exactly what it does and why it is an essential tool for any Amazon seller. So the example we've got here, the Disney Zerg action figure. And the reason it's a good example is because I have bought and sold it before. Okay. Now, as you can see, you have a BuyBotPro island in the middle, and you've got a BuyBotPro sort of interface or Chrome extension, which is this was the sort of initial extension that was first released, and over the months and over the years, additions have been made just to give people more information to help them analyze the deals. So there was a lot to take in here. There's a lot of there were so many little extras that have been added. I'm not going to cover every single one of them. I'll briefly show you exactly what's going on and where they all are, and how you can quickly use it. But I won't go into detail on every single section because it would take me a long time, to me hours, to actually analyze everything it offers. So I'm going to analyze it for what I believe where the true value lies, and how anyone that's getting started with Amazon may want to use it to really help them refine and critique their decision-making process when purchasing products to then sell for profit. So on this example, all of the data is actually blank at the moment because I haven't entered the buy price. So currently it's at £25, this product, but you can find a product for £20 when it becomes available on offer, which isn't now, but it sometimes does. So we're going to type in £20, and it currently is selling at $39.99 here. You just want to make sure that price is the same, because it can change, and you want to make sure it's correct. So then once you've entered your buy price and there's a sell price, you click the Analyze Deal. So just to clarify, I have entered this as a non-VAT registered seller because most beginners and newer sellers, and a lot of people are not registered for VAT. I currently am, but if I do show you that as a VAT registered seller, the figures would be different if you then go over and have a look for yourself later and wonder why the figures and numbers are different. So I'm using it as if I'm a beginner, and this is the way that it would look to you. So you click the Analyze, and then you can see lots of pieces sort of come together. Now, there is a lot to take in here. I would say the most important sections to look at are eligibility. Now, the reason it says login and Hazmat says login is because it links to your Amazon account. So if you're logged in on another tab to your Amazon account, it will populate either, I think it says yes, no, and then Hazmat yes, no. So no will be that you're not eligible to sell, meaning you are not allowed to sell the product. And if you see that straight away, you can move on to your next product. You cannot be, but you could look to buy it for the future. But when you're a beginner, that's the last thing you really want to be doing. You want to be focusing on what you can sell, because that's the key to long-term selling on Amazon. You need to focus on what you can do right now as a beginner, and not focusing too much of the longer-term sort of scope of things. The same with Hazmat. If Hazmat says yes, it is Hazmat. So it's the opposite to eligibility. Obviously, eligibility is can you sell it? Yes or no. Very simple. Hazmat is are you allowed to sell it as an FBA product? If it says Hazmat is yes, that means there is a Hazmat problem and you cannot sell it by FBA. I know it's a little bit, back to front or whatever you want to call it, like a little bit opposite to what I've sort of just been saying about the eligibility in that. Because if the Hazmat is yes, you're not allowed to sell it by FBA. So that's all you really need to remember. And that won't be forever. That is just periodically they look to test their products to make sure it's not a hazardous product. If it is a hazardous product, they will remove it from FBA. But most of the time it's just checked, and then it will come back and say Hazmat is no, because it's being checked if it says yes. So let's get started on the rest of the items. Another really important indicator is the IP radar. So for anyone new, you don't really know what's good and bad to sell on Amazon. As an experienced seller for me, I pretty much know different brands, the different, ASINs, the different everything, categories, the risk categories, the non-risk categories, or the reduced risk. But when you're brand new, you don't know what to sell. And this is giving you a good indicator of are you okay to sell it? And just because it is green, it doesn't mean you should, because you should still do your checks to make sure there isn't any problems with this, because this is just pulling together loads of data points to give it its best guess if it's okay to sell. And that would be, for an example, is there more than two? I believe it's two FBA sellers. It may actually even say. I'm not going to worry too much. Something like if it's more than two FBA sellers, if there's just one FBA seller, that is a big red flag, because normally there'd be more competition on arbitrage products. Another red flag would be, is the brand here, Disney, are they actually one of the sellers that are within the new? That is one of my big red flags. If there's Disney show up in anywhere within the new as a seller, I will never sell that product ever. There is no exceptions, because that is a guaranteed way to almost have issues within your account. And as a beginner as well, it is a lot harder, and you get a lot, you're scrutinized a lot more, because they haven't yet got to the point where they trust you as a seller. Because, more established sellers, they build up some rapport, they have some feedback, and they trust them more. So with newer sellers as well, you want to remove any risk, as much risk, and not even just like, losing money risk, but also you want to keep your account. So that's a really good, important indicator. So I'm going to skip down a little bit more. If Amazon are on the listing, you can sort of see, do they share the buy box? But I'd say for a beginner, just stay away from anything Amazon sell just for now, because it just adds another little bit of complexity to the whole mix. And you just want to keep it, simple as you can while you're learning everything, because it's a lot to take in when you just get started, or within the first, 3 to 6 months. So if you move down, you can start looking at, if you're interested to see where your costs go, where do the fees go, you can highlight that. And then what you really want to look at is the profit and the ROI. So you can see here, the profit's £8.81 as of this product, as of the price, or it's 44% ROI. And the general rule of thumb for any beginner is that you're looking for, £3 profit and 30% ROI. Now, as you get to a more advanced seller, it completely changes. But that is when you're, looking for a 1+ year down the line. I'm about 4 years in, and I do nothing the same as I did in my first year or even my second year. So every year and you progress, you do change. You have to. You have, because the market not only changes, but to be a larger seller, to make more money, you have to adapt, and you have to change the way you do things. But I'm going on this review showing how a newer seller would use this, and what bits I do use still, because there are areas that I do still use as a more experienced seller. So the things that I do use is I do make sure that I put the profits in. So I put the figures in to get the profits, the ROI. I also like to have a look at the estimated sales because it's always interesting. But what I actually like to look at more than anything is the keeper data. So BuyBotPro has a keeper plugin in itself within BuyBotPro. That sounds a bit confusing. Basically, they have keeper in BuyBotPro. You can have keeper independently, which looks like this. It does, for anyone looking at it first, like never before, this is the first time, it does, you might think that looks completely different. But it actually isn't. I mean, this looks very similar. Well, it is the same, pretty much, this bottom one. The middle one, ignore that because that's a new little implementation from Keeper. But this is actually does represent the same. It's just, it looks slightly different, but it is the actual information is the same. So if you're looking to keep your expenses down, maybe you just want to get maybe BuyBotPro because the price is not actually that much more. And not only do you get BuyBotPro itself, you actually get Keeper. So I think it's like about $24.99 for BuyBotPro overall, which I'll go over all a little bit later. Or it's about £20 for Keeper in itself, but with BuyBotPro, you also get Keeper. Yeah. So carrying on. So it has some stock level or some stock indicators of people. So if you know that someone is selling it quite cheap and you're not sure if you want to be selling it, but you might be like, well, if they only had one product in stock and they're selling it cheap, well, they should sell out soon. And so actually it shouldn't stay that low, that cheap for too long. But if they have 100 units in stock, this seller here, then obviously that's more of a problem because if they don't change their price, well, we have to be selling it alongside them at that price or wait for 100 sales to obviously sell out. So that sort of information is a nice little extra to help you make a decision on sort of quantities that you may be looking to buy. I say if you're not sure, just try it out, try the listing out, because what you will find is a lot of deals do come back on offer at some point. So it's better to be safe than sorry, especially when you're a beginner and you have limited capital investment. Moving on. So what you can also see here is a little snapshot of any other European markets. And for some reason, whenever I do that, it stays up. But no, this is the UK, but you can also sell it in Italy. So that might be something you look at after. I won't go into that because to me, the European markets I don't really look at them too much, basically. I just use it as a little bonus if I can, but I won't ever really spend too much time on that. I will later on down the line set up some reprices in Europe. But yeah, I focus on the UK. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. And if later, when you're more experienced, you decide that you want a VA to be analysing deals for you, you can use this extra little VA toolbox where they can log in, you can actually track your virtual assistant, make sure they're actually working. They can submit deals and you can then analyze the deals. And they can use BuyBotPro as well, according to your criteria to help you, build up some future leads and that sort of thing. Which is just a cool little extra. So a lot of these things were never part of BuyBotPro originally. So these are just extra, almost freebies. And these sort of softwares and services are actually there are businesses that just charge for that exact thing by itself, and these are all little extras that have been thrown in over the years and over the months by the team. And what you can also see at the very bottom is that Profit Protector Pro is also integrated. So it's a separate service that is a repricer, which I use, but also you can integrate it in so that you can not only analyze the deal, but if you decide to buy the product, you can also then type in your buy price and all that, and so that as soon as you do get that into Amazon, it's automatically, the system is basically automatically repricing from the second it's live. Because what you can do is you can wait for your stock to book in, then you can go to say Profit Protector Pro and manually then choose your minimums, your maximums, and then set your prices, and then only then will it start repricing. So if you're away for the day and you can't get to a computer, you're missing out on some sales in the short term because it's not being competitive and repricing properly. It only is repricing once you actually activate it on the system. So by doing it in advance, you are saving, you're not even saving yourself, but you're basically front loading your sales and your profits, which as a beginner is, again, like when I say beginner, I really mean like within your first year. even though maybe you won't think if you're a year in like that you are, but that's how I sort of view it. Then that is it. And a great thing is that you can see here it's licensed for 5 devices, so you could have one on your laptop, one on your main computer at home or something, and then a couple for virtual assistants or whoever. Just so that you don't have to keep jumping to special computers just to get this to work, which is all cool, all for the same price. So then moving away from that column, you get some extra information below the whole listing. So what I mean by that is that below the picture, you can see here BuyBotPro, and then you've got so on bits and bobs that I need to open up. You can see here, if I open all the extras up, it starts to get quite long. That's why I had them closed. So as you can see here, Keeper is a vital piece of information that you should really be getting experienced on. But because you've now got BuyBotPro, you don't really have to be an expert from day one. Before, you really had to be. So, I am old school, so I like to have the old school Keeper here, and I don't mind paying £17-18 a month on top, just because I'm used to representing everything in this format. I like to look at everything like this. That's just me. But the reason that I love this is because a lot of this data up here is actually pulled through from Keeper itself. It's just a different representation. It is represented in a sort of graph and line chart, whatever you want to call it. And there's lots of things you can turn on and off. This is something you need to decide over time what fits best for you. I would say make sure you're using this and you're using the new off account. And what you will find is that new off account does not show up on any other Chrome extension that I'm aware of at all. BuyBotPro is the only one, and this is actually a vital piece of information for analyzing deals. The one reason is that you can basically do trend analysis with this. If we go to a year, I can see that when the number of sellers is at 19, as you can see here, it says 19 there, the buy box is 34.88. Well, when it's now at 3, the buy box is at 36.99, all the way from 38.39 when it's low. So when you have a low price down here, it fluctuates between 40 to 30. It's basically 38 as an average. We just say 38 as an average. But when it's a lot of sellers, the average is a lot less. So you are able to do some analysis in terms of where are we at current moment? We're at 7. Okay, so when it's coming down, it's probably going to come down to maybe the average, which is, let's say, 5. This is not a guarantee, but it's just using previous data points to predict the future. The more data points and the longer duration you have, the more years you have, the more you're able to build up a big picture. If you had this for 3 or 4 years and you could really see the sort of longer term trend, then you can even make a better prediction. But in theory, you could go 5 is the lowest. We're currently at 7. Well, that means it could actually go down a little bit more in terms of number of sellers. And at the moment, it's at 39.99. Well, it probably could even go to something like 42.99, because if you're following that trend, it should level out at around the 5. No guarantees, of course, but it's just trying to take a little bit of information from here, a little bit of information from here, a little bit of information from up here, and then before you know it, you've got 6,988 pieces of information, and you know exactly what you're doing. And that's literally what you're using this for. And over time, you'll decide, what, I don't really use that a lot, so I won't, I don't need to look at that next time. I don't really use that a lot. I don't really use that a lot, because each person's different. And then you sort of refine down the pieces of information that you're heavily weighted on. You put a lot of emphasis and importance on, and that is what you would then base your decision making on, which in turn creates time. By this whole process, for a small fee, which I'll go over in a sec, because I don't want this video to go on too long and bore everyone. For a small fee, really, it's saving you over a month, over a year. Over a month, it could save you a couple of days of analysis if you had to just go off, the page itself or just Keeper itself, for example. And then if you want to look, there are extra functionalities. Even that's not English, but that's cool. Extra bits down here if you prefer to see it represented in this sort of format rather than a Keeper chart. I would say, even if you I'm not too worried about keep. I'd say at least become a relatively strong level of understanding, because ultimately, if a lot of this data didn't pull up for some reason, there was something wrong, maybe it was down, you can always fall back on this, because this is this is where the data comes from a lot of the time. But of course, the vital parts of this are so important, actually knowing your profits, because before this there were some Chrome extensions, but they weren't always perfect, some of them were wrong, and definitely for a beginner, you don't want to be making decisions if you're not comfortable or confident in your own ability, because you just aren't sure of all the different elements that actually go together to make a decision when purchasing. In theory, it's relatively easy. You're buying a product for low and you're selling for higher. You're making a difference. But actually, on the bigger scale, it is not as easy as they think. And so this sort of software is an essential and vital tool. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump onto the costs, because it is no point, going through all this if you're not going to find that out. So the cost is actually not as much as you think. So like I said, I pay for Keeper itself. That's about £18. This has Keeper in with it, and it's actually for £24.95. Now, I would always suggest getting the suspension safeguard with it. So I always have had suspension safeguard since it's been out anyway. It's basically a tool you can turn to if you have a problem with your account. If you get a policy warning that you just don't understand, maybe you want, you have to give a plan of action for something that Amazon have asked you for, but you just don't really know how to even reply. They will give you like a template and a format to help, as long, just basically make it as clear cut for Amazon to help you in your situation. It could be that you've got a trademark warning, you've got a policy warning, and they just want you to prove some invoices that you bought it from a reputable wholesaler or retailer or whatever it is. And the suspension safeguard will actually give you the templates and tools to back up and present your reply in a professional manner. So I would say that is almost as important as everything else, because if you haven't got an account, you can't sell on Amazon. So I would say, as a main thing, that is important. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave my affiliate link at the below in the description. You don't have to use it. All it is it costs the same for you to sign up. It just gives me like a 20% as a little thank you for supporting the channel and that sort of thing. But if you just don't want to use it, then you can go just direct to BuyBotPro.com and select whatever you want, and then that will go directly to them. So yeah, either or, all good. But yeah, as I said, my suggestion is to get the suspension safeguard, because if you look at the difference, it is a tenner. And if you're serious about this as a business, I would always suggest just paying a little extra for something that has amazing value. And as can I get away with not having it? I would say don't worry, just give it like a 14-day trial. As you can see here, you can try it for 14 days. Give it a go, and that's the great thing about the software. You can give it a go and actually start making good decisions, and then you'll see definitely within the first couple of days the bits that you really like about it, and then for the small fee it actually is, it's going to make you money. So in a way, it's actually paying for itself, because your decisions you're making, even if it's like buying 2 to 3 more of a product because you actually see it's got more value, the BuyBotPro is giving you some more value or more data points to actually help your decision making and make you see something that maybe you didn't see if you just had to look at the page itself. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you got some some extra feedback and tools and tips and tricks. I don't even know, whatever they just reading off words now. But hopefully you got a nice update on the software, because that is the thing. Software is always changing. I'm sure next month they're going to have some new crazy feature. It could be anything. And I would always just go onto the features of the website just to check month in, month out what they actually do have. Or you can go directly to their YouTube channel, because there are tons of great helpful videos that I've seen that Karen has done herself, just basically demonstrating each of the new features that they do have. Gonna leave it there. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.